the highest ground on Earth. A wall of rock and ice 5 miles high where the air runs out. It looks like a dead world. It is anything but. It holds more ice than anywhere beyond the 2 poles, feeding 10 great rivers. The water born here reaches 1 person in 4 alive today. And clinging to these frozen slopes, a caste of animals found nowhere else on Earth. Himalaya. To climb this mountain is to cross from the tropics to the poles in a single day. We begin at its feet, in a forest that drips. Where the plains of India meet the first rise of the mountains, the monsoon breaks against the stone and empties the sky. Out of months of rain grows a forest of cloud and bamboo. High in these misty trees lives a small animal with a borrowed name. The red panda. Despite the name, it is not a bear, nor any relation of the giant panda. It is the last of its own ancient family, close akin to a weasel, and it carried the name panda first, nearly half a century before a black and white bear ever borrowed it. A meat-eater by birth that gave up meat. It lives almost entirely on bamboo, the toughest of meals, and its short gut can wring goodness from barely a quarter of what it swallows. So, it must eat and almost never stop. One female was watched stripping close to 20,000 bamboo leaves between one dawn and the next. The stalk turns in a grip that looks like a hand but is not one. The red panda has no thumb. What closes around the bamboo is a wrist bone, swollen and lengthened into a false sixth finger, first grown to climb and only later turned to feeding. It carries its own blanket against the cold, fur even on the soles of its feet, and a long ringed tail it wraps around itself through the freezing mountain night. Fewer than 10,000 of them now breed in the wild. In 3 generations, as the forest is felled and cut into islands, their number has roughly halved. Sharing the same wet forest is a bird that seems lit from within. The Himalayan monal. Nine colours run across the male, metallic blue and green and copper and violet. And not one of them is a pigment. The colour is built, not painted, sculpted from microscopic layers inside each feather that bend the light itself. A shine that can never wash out. This is the danfei, the national bird of Nepal. And for all its shine, it makes its living face down in the dirt, digging through soil and snow with its beak for buried roots. Higher up, the forest begins to thin, and the trees give way to rock. Here the mountain turns vertical, and the animals that live on it must become climbers. On a cliff that offers a human being nothing to hold, a heavy, shaggy animal walks up bare stone as if it were a staircase. The Himalayan tahr. A wild goat, the males draped in a mane the colour of a lion, pouring off the shoulders to the knees. Its secret is in the foot. Each split hoof carries a hard rim for edging, and a soft, rubbery pad in the centre that grips bare rock like a climbing shoe. Where the tar can stand, almost nothing can follow. Beside it feeds an animal the same colour as the mountain itself. The burrell, the blue sheep, neither truly blue nor truly a sheep, but something in between sheep and goat, wrapped in a coat of cold grey that is the exact shade of the shattered rock. Freeze on a scree slope, and a burrell simply ceases to exist. And that vanishing act matters more than anything else on this mountain, because the burrell is the single most important animal in the high Himalaya. Almost everything that hunts up here hunts it. On the drier ridges lives the tallest of all the wild goats. The markhor. The males crowned with horns that spiral upward like drawn corkscrews to 1.5 meters of twisted bone. Its name, in Old Persian, means snake-eater, from a belief that it killed and ate serpents. It never has. It browses juniper and oak, a name that never fit. And moving through the forest below the goats, a black bear with a moon on its chest. The Asian black bear, the moon bear, named for the pale crescent of cream splashed across its dark breast. It is one of the great climbers of the animal world, spending much of its life aloft, bending branches into rough platforms to reach the autumn fruit. But all of them, the tar, the burrell, the markhor, the young of the bear, live under the eye of a single hunter, the one this whole mountain seems built around. Above the herds, on the highest and most broken ground of all, moves a shadow that even now we have barely seen. The snow leopard. The first photograph of a wild one was taken only in the 1970s. This animal had haunted these mountains for millions of years, and no human lens had ever caught it. It is the ghost of the mountains. Its smoke-grey coat, smudged with open rosettes the colour of shadow, dissolves so completely into grey rock and snow that a hunting cat can cross open ground in full daylight and become nothing but stone. Everything about it is built for thin, freezing air. Fur on its belly a hand's width deep. Wide paws that spread its weight like snowshoes. A nose enlarged to warm each breath before it reaches the lungs. And a tail nearly as long as the cat itself, a counterweight on knife-edge ledges, and a scarf across its face when it sleeps. It is the highest living of all the great cats. It has been found by camera at 5,800 meters, as high as any predator walks on land, above the summits of the Alps. To hold this ground, it must walk a great deal of it. A single snow leopard patrols dozens of square kilometers of near vertical rock, alone, meeting another of its kind only to mate. And alone among the great cats of its kind, it cannot roar. The sound it makes in greeting is not thunder, but a soft, breathy puff, called a chuff, more like the snort of a horse than the voice of a lion. Its whole life hangs on the blue sheep. In some valleys, 9 in every 10 of its kills is a barrel. Now, on a slope above the herd, it begins the oldest work in these mountains. It flattens, it reads the ground. It uses every fold of rock to close the distance, because on open scree there is nowhere to hide but in plain sight. The blue sheep are built for exactly this. One lifted head, one wrong sound, and they pour up a cliff no cat can climb. A snow leopard makes a large kill only once every 8 or 10 days. It cannot afford to be seen too soon. It cannot afford to be slow. It launches. Long hind legs throw it out across the slope, a bound that can carry it the length of 6 of its own bodies through the air. The herd explodes upward. And the mountain keeps its own accounts. This time, the blue sheep win. The ghost will not eat today. It folds back into the rock and waits for another day. Beyond the last of the peaks, the mountains open onto something few ever picture when they think of the Himalaya. A vast, cold, empty roof. The Tibetan Plateau. A grassland the size of a continent, held 4 kilometers and more above the sea. The largest and highest plateau on Earth, and the great frozen tank from which the rivers are drawn. Each breath here delivers a third less oxygen than one taken at the coast. And yet the plateau is not empty. It belongs to giants. The wild yak. A bull can top a ton and stand 2 meters at the shoulder, wrapped in a double coat of hair so long it nearly brushes the ground. Inside that chest beat lungs, fed by an extra pair of ribs, the cattle of the lowlands do not have. It is built for 40 degrees below freezing. Warmth, not cold, is what could kill it. Once these black herds were a common sight across the plateau. Now fewer than 10,000 of the wild kind remain, and somewhere among them walks a rarer thing still, a golden yak the colour of honey, of which barely a couple of hundred are left alive. Across the same plains runs the largest wild ass on Earth. The Kiang. It gathers in shifting herds that can number in the hundreds, drinks almost no standing water at all, wringing what it needs from grass and snow, and crosses the cold rivers of the plateau as easily as it runs. And threading the open ground in long, nervous files, an antelope that breathes like a creature that was never born. The Chiru, the Tibetan antelope. Alone among all the mammals of the world, it never grows out of its infant blood. Every other antelope trades the high oxygen blood of the unborn calf for the ordinary kind at birth. The Chiru simply never lets go, and so it draws breath its whole life long, from air a third as thin as the seas. Each summer the pregnant females peel away from the males and walk north. Up to 300 kilometers across the bare roof of the world, to a handful of traditional grounds where they give birth together, far, it is thought, from the reach of the wolves. For this plateau has a wolf of its own. The Himalayan wolf, and it is no ordinary grey wolf that wandered up the mountain. It branched off the wolf family tree before today's grey wolves even existed, perhaps 800,000 years ago, and kept going. Nearly a third of what it is came from an animal that no longer exists. An ancient, nameless wild dog that vanished long ago and left no skeleton we can point to, surviving only as code inside the wolf that hunts the plateau today. And from that lost ancestor, it inherited the gift that lets it live up here at all. For the wolf breathes thin air the same way the people of Tibet do. Faced with the same mountain, evolution reached in the wolf and in the human for the very same handful of genes. two hunters, the same summit, the same answer, found twice. Fewer than 4,000 of these wolves now breed across 3 countries. And where the wild grazers still run, the wolf will choose the harder hunt, running down a gazelle across ground where a lowland wolf's lungs would simply fail. But the true engine of this whole plateau is not the wolf nor the yak. It is an animal you could hold in one hand. The pika. A small round cousin of the rabbit, it lives in burrows in the open turf, and it is the meal that feeds nearly everything. The wolf, the fox, the bear, the eagle, the falcon. For the little Tibetan fox, it is almost the only food there is. Nearly every dropping it leaves holds pika, and most hold nothing else. And unlike almost every small creature of the cold, the pika never sleeps the winter away. While the marmot lies sealed underground with its whole family for 8 months of the year, the pika stays awake in the half-pressure air. It shrinks its own body's fires by nearly 1/3 to save fuel. And where the herds have passed, it survives the winter on the frozen dung of yaks. Everything on the plateau is built on its burrows. Small birds raise their chicks down inside them, safe from the wind, and a chick reared in a pika's tunnel is 4 times as likely to fly. Poison the pika, as men have tried, and the foxes and the falcons and the small birds vanish with it. Pull this one thread, and the whole roof of the world unravels. The pika shares its meadow with a heavyweight that shows the opposite path, the Himalayan marmot. It gorges all through the short summer, then seals its whole family underground for 8 months of winter. And when it finally digs up through the last of the snow leopard's summer larder opens once more. Above it all, on wings that barely move, ride the masters of this thin, high air. The bearded vulture. It hangs along the ridgelines on a span of near 3 meters, and it lives on a food that nothing else on Earth will touch: bone. It is the only bird alive whose diet is almost entirely skeleton, 7 to 9 parts in 10 of everything it eats. It comes to the carcass last, when every other scavenger has stripped the meat and gone. And it takes what is left, the bones themselves. What it cannot swallow, it carries 100 meters and more into the sky, and drops onto the same sun-bleached slabs of rock its ancestors used, again and again, until the bone shatters and the marrow runs free. Inside its body waits an acid close to what eats through metal. A splinter of bone the length of your hand is gone within a day. And the drop is not instinct alone. A young bird can take 7 years to master it. The height, the aim, the patience. Bone breaking is a craft, learned slowly. And the burning rust of its breast is a lie it tells about itself. The feathers grow white, the colour is makeup, rubbed on from iron-red mud and mountain springs. Most likely a badge of rank, worn only by those who can reach the reddest water. The vulture does not own this sky alone. On a wingspan of over 2 meters, the golden eagle hangs above the same ridgelines, reading the invisible waves of air that rise off the rock, hunting marmot and hare across ground 4 kilometers above the sea. And the high air holds one more traveller, this one crossing the roof of the world twice a year. The bar-headed goose, the highest flying migrant on Earth. It waits for night, when the freezing air lies stillest and heaviest, and then it climbs. 4 to 6 kilometers in a single push, on nothing but the beat of its own wings, refusing the help of any wind. The biggest single change to its blood, one swapped letter in a protein, lets it pull oxygen from air that would drop a human where they stood. It has been tracked just above 7,000 meters. Not, whatever the old story says, over the summit of Everest. It threads the passes in the dark and comes down the far side into another country by dawn. And on the high wetlands, one bird has done what no other of its family ever managed. It has made a home of the heights themselves. The black-necked crane. The only crane on Earth that lives its whole life on the high plateau, nesting in cold bogs nearly 5 kilometers above the sea. It was the last of all the world's cranes to be found by science, unknown to the outside world until 1876. Each autumn, in one valley in Bhutan, the arriving flocks are said to circle the old monastery 3 times before they come down to land, and the people below take it as a blessing. For up here, the mountain and the sacred have always been the same thing. The highest peak of all carries a far older name than the one we gave it. To the people who live in its shadow, it is Chomolungma, Goddess Mother of the World. And the ghost cat that walks these ridges is not to them a mere predator. It is a guardian of the mountain, a spirit made flesh. But the mountain that made all of this is beginning to fail. And the cause, this time, is us. These glaciers are the third pole. Outside the Arctic and the Antarctic, no place on Earth holds more frozen water, and it is melting. In the last 10 years, the ice has been melting nearly 2/3 faster than the decade before. On our present course, these mountains could lose the greater part of their ice by the end of the century. For a while, the melting makes more water, not less. The rivers swell, and then, as the ice that fed them thins away, they will begin to fall. More water now, far less water later. A slow trap closing on the nearly 2 billion who drink from these streams. And sometimes the future arrives all at once. On an October morning, not long ago, a wall of frozen rubble slid into a glacial lake high in the mountains of Sikkim. The lake threw up a wave 20 meters tall, tore down the valley, and swallowed a great dam whole. Across these ranges, some 200 such lakes now hang above the villages, swollen with meltwater, waiting. The animals feel the change first. As the world warms, the tree line creeps upward, and the cold band the ghost cat needs is squeezed from below. Up to 1/3 of its Himalayan home may soon be gone. And where the wild prey thins, an old war begins. A snow leopard takes a herder's goat, and the herder, who has lost half of everything he owns, takes the snow leopard. Somewhere between 200 and 450 of these cats are killed every year, at least 4 a week, and most are not felled by hunters for their skins. Most die for a single lost goat, shot in grief and anger on a mountainside. The Tibetan antelope has felt our hand too. Its underfur is the finest wool on earth, so fine a whole shawl can be drawn through a wedding ring. But the Chiru is wild and cannot be sheared. Every shawl means 3 to 5 of them shot dead on the plateau. In a single century, we brought a creature of 1 million down towards the last 70,000. But this is where the mountain turns, because the story does not end in the dark. The Chiru is climbing back. Once the shawls were banned and the plateau patrolled, the antelopes began to return. From that low of 70,000, they have risen again above 150,000, and the great herds once more thread the roof of the world. And the ghost cat has found unlikely allies, the women of the high valleys. Across 4 countries, herders now build strong stone corrals that no leopard can breach, and are paid for their wool and their felt on one condition: that the cat lives. Where a lost goat once meant a dead snow leopard, it now, more and more, means nothing at all. Because the people of these mountains have always known something the rest of us are only learning. That the ice and the cat and the crane and the wolf and the small brown pika in the turf are not separate from the water in the river far below. They are the same story. The health of the roof is the health of everything beneath it. The Himalaya are still rising. Grain by grain, the collision that built them has not stopped in 50 million years, and will not stop now. If we give the roof of the world room and time, the ice will keep its long watch, and the rivers will keep running down to the plains. And the ghost will keep walking the high ridges, where the air runs thin and the world begins. These mountains do not merely touch the sky, they make the world that lives below them.